No matter how the cachet of the WNBA elevates, remember, it could have been even better. You messed it up. You messed it.
What would you do if you generated millions of dollars for your company, but they only paid you $76,000 while letting your coworkers physically assault you at work? This isn't a hypothetical question. It's the shocking reality for Caitlyn Clark in the WNBA. After being targeted on the court, humiliated by the Olympic Committee, and insulted by her paycheck, the league's biggest star is finally at her breaking point. And a monumental offer from overseas isn't just giving her a way out, it's giving her a way to get revenge, potentially destroying the league that refused to protect her.
I know she will do her best. I know she's talented, but she's not strong enough and she doesn't have enough experience right now to compete at this.
The arrival of Caitlyn Clark in the WNBA wasn't just a big moment, it was an economic explosion that could be measured in real time. They call it the Caitlyn Clark effect, and it's not an exaggeration, it's an understatement. Within weeks, the league was utterly transformed. The Indiana Fever, a team that had languished near the bottom of the league in both standings and attendance for years, was suddenly the hottest ticket in all of American sports. Their games were selling out in minutes. Opposing teams had to move their home games against the Fever from their usual small arenas to massive NBA stadiums like the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C., just to accommodate the tidal wave of fans desperate to catch a glimpse of the phenom.
Nonsense about things that Caitlyn was doing wrong when, in my personal opinion, she was doing nothing but going out there and playing great basketball every night and ignoring the hate that was coming to her from all sides, not only from...
The numbers were simply staggering. Viewership on networks like ESPN and ABC was up by triple-digit percentages, with her debut game becoming the most-watched WNBA game in over 2 decades. The league's draft, usually a niche event for hardcore fans, pulled in 2.45 million viewers, shattering all previous records by a factor of 4. Her number 22 jersey became the highest selling of any athlete in any sport on draft night. She was a walking, talking stimulus package for a league that had struggled for decades to capture the mainstream spotlight. The WNBA didn't just have a new star, they had a messiah, but instead of rolling out the red carpet, some in the league seemed to be rolling out a tripwire.
Look at what the NBA became. Even when Jordan was ascending and the league clearly saw that that was the dude, and Nike was marketing the living hell out of Michael Jordan. I want to be like Mike. It was still Bird and Magic.
From her very first game, it was brutally clear that Clark's welcome to the league would be a hostile one. The on-court aggression went far beyond typical rookie hazing. It felt calculated, personal, and dangerous. She was hip-checked, shouldered, and relentlessly knocked to the floor with a ferocity that seemed designed to injure her. The most infamous moment, played on a loop on every sports channel, came when Chicago Sky's Chennedy Carter leveled her with a blindside body check far away from the ball, a cheap shot that looked more like something from an NFL game. The league's response was a lukewarm fine, a slap on the wrist that many fans and analysts saw as a green light for other players to continue the assault.
Weren't making a basketball argument. You weren't making a basketball argument.
We're not saying we were making a basketball
No, Andrea, I'm not going to let you do that.
Go ahead,
Andrea, I'm not going to let you make it seem like Caitlyn Clark was averaging 5 points a game. At the time, she was still averaging 16 points a game, which was more than a lot of other guards that made the team. So don't do that. Don't make it seem like she was averaging 5 points and this was like a handout.
No, it wasn't a handout.
Look at her numbers. Look at her numbers comparable to the other guards that were on the team. That's all.
Veterans, some of whom were openly critical of the media attention she received, played with a clear agenda. They weren't just trying to stop her from scoring, they seemed intent on sending a physical message, on intimidating the league's biggest draw into submission. It was a bizarre and self-destructive spectacle. While fans watched in horror, the league that was benefiting so immensely from her presence seemed utterly unwilling, or perhaps unable, to protect its most valuable asset. The on-court attacks were just the beginning of the campaign against her. The real slap in the face was yet to come, and it would happen on a national stage.
Watching women's basketball right now, it all started from the national championship game, and I've been dealing with this for 2 years now. And understanding, negative things have probably been said about me, but honestly, I'll take that because look where women's basketball is. People are talking about women's basketball, but you never would think that we'd be talking about women's basketball. I'll look back in 20 years and be like, yeah, the reason why we watching women's basketball is not just because of one person. It's because of me too.
The ultimate betrayal arrived in early June, when the roster for the USA Olympic women's basketball team was announced, and Caitlyn Clark's name was nowhere on it. The decision sent shockwaves of disbelief and anger through the entire sports world. Here was the most popular, most watched, and most talked about player in the country, a ratings machine who had single-handedly made women's basketball a primetime conversation, being told she wasn't good enough to represent her country in Paris. The official excuses from the selection committee were flimsy and insulting, citing her supposed lack of international experience, but nobody was buying it. This felt punitive and personal. It was widely seen as a deliberate and public snub by the old guard, a way for the establishment to put the upstart in her place and remind her who was in charge.
Fact that she was getting all of that, yet all of these eyeballs were coming to the league because of her. The Indiana Fever was turning away games. And
The backlash was immediate and immense. Sports analysts, casual fans, and even people who had never watched a WNBA game before were outraged. The decision confirmed the worst fears of her supporters, that the establishment resented her fame and was actively working to undermine her. The snub wasn't just a missed opportunity for Team USA to gain millions of new viewers, it was a clear, unambiguous message to Clark that despite everything she had done for the sport, she was still an outsider in a club that didn't want her. And while the public disrespect stung, a private look at her bank account revealed an even more insulting truth.
Viewership, which is up 400% to 40%. Between ticket sales, which is up 93% to 16%. Between regular game viewership, which is up 180% to 20%. What Caitlyn Clark has done is grown the WNBA exponentially. She did in 5 weeks what would have taken 5 years. And as it pertains to draft viewership, she did in 5.
The most jarring and indefensible part of this entire saga is the cold, hard cash. Caitlyn Clark generates tens of millions of dollars in direct value for the WNBA and its teams. Her presence dictates national TV schedules, sells out 20,000 arenas, and drives merchandising sales through the roof. Yet, her official rookie salary from the league is a shockingly low $76,535. To put that in perspective, it's less than what many mid-level office workers make, and is dwarfed by the NBA's rookie minimum of over $1 million. Meanwhile, Clark has secured massive endorsement deals with global giants like Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm, estimated to be worth over $3 million this year alone. She makes more money from a single television commercial than she does for an entire season of grueling cross-country travel and enduring nightly physical punishment on the court. This financial absurdity lays bare the fundamental problem: the WNBA's pay structure, governed by a restrictive collective bargaining agreement, is completely out of step with modern athlete branding and market value. Clark is a global brand trapped in a league with a pay scale from a bygone era. It provides the perfect, undeniable motive for her to listen when other richer opportunities come knocking, and the knock from across the Atlantic is becoming a deafening roar. The whispers from Europe have turned into a full-blown siren song. Reports have surfaced of a monumental contract offer being prepared by a EuroLeague team, an offer designed to be completely impossible to refuse. We're not just talking about a higher salary, we're talking about a paradigm shift in how she is treated. European leagues are notorious for paying top female players far more than the WNBA, often in the high six figures or even over $1 million per season. But this rumored offer for Clark is said to be different, a king's ransom that would make her the highest paid female basketball player on the planet by an astronomical margin. But more than the money, it's an offer of total respect and adoration. In Europe, she wouldn't be a resented rookie, she would be the franchise. The entire league's marketing would revolve around her. She would play fewer games in a season, allowing for more rest and recovery, and be treated not as a commodity, but as a global icon. In front of passionate European crowds, with their chanting, flares, and unwavering loyalty, she would be hailed as a conquering hero. The offer represents a tantalizing escape, an escape from the on-court hostility, from the institutional disrespect, and from a league that profits from her name while refusing to pay her worth. If Caitlyn Clark accepts that European offer and leaves the WNBA, the fallout would be nothing short of catastrophic. The league would instantly face an economic apocalypse. The television networks like ESPN and ABC, which have been eagerly broadcasting fever games and enjoying record ratings, would see their numbers plummet overnight. The lucrative sponsorship deals that have been flowing into the league, many of them tied directly to the Clark effect, would be in serious jeopardy. Ticket sales would collapse, sending teams back to playing in front of sparse, quiet crowds. The new casual fans she brought to the sport, the fathers and daughters, the college students, the curious sports fans who finally gave the WNBA a chance, would vanish, having no other reason to tune in. The WNBA's moment in the mainstream sun would be over, plunging it back into relative obscurity. It would be a self-inflicted wound of historic proportions, a case study in how to fumble a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But what if the answer isn't to flee across the ocean, but to start a revolution right here at home? A new radical idea has entered the conversation, one that could change everything and pose an even greater threat to the WNBA's dominance. Sports commentator Jason Whitlock has publicly called for Caitlyn Clark to partner with investors to create an entirely new league in America, an unrivaled league. The concept is simple and devastatingly effective, a domestic league that plays during the WNBA's offseason, offering superstar-level salaries that reflect the player's true market value. In this scenario, Clark wouldn't be an employee, she'd be a co-founder and the face of a rebellion. It would be a league built by players for players who are tired of being undervalued and underpaid. This idea presents a direct threat to the WNBA's very existence. It would give stars like Clark a high-paying American alternative, eliminating the need to travel overseas for a fair wage. It could attract other disgruntled stars and create a true competitor on U.S. soil, one that could quickly surpass the WNBA in both pay and popularity. It's the ultimate checkmate move, a declaration of independence that would shift the entire landscape of women's sports forever. The WNBA is now standing at a terrifying crossroads, and every path from here leads to a painful reckoning. They were given a generational talent, a cultural icon who handed them the keys to the kingdom. In return, the league and some of its veterans allowed her to be physically targeted, publicly humiliated, and financially undervalued. They failed to see the bigger picture, viewing her fame as a threat to their own rather than a rising tide that would lift all boats. Now they are forced to face the consequences of that monumental, short-sighted jealousy. Whether she escapes to Europe to be treated like royalty or leads a rebellion to build a new empire at home, one thing is clear: the era of Caitlyn Clark being a loyal soldier for an ungrateful league is over. The only question left is, will we look back on this as the moment the WNBA signed its own death warrant, or the moment a true queen, tired of waiting to be crowned, finally claimed her global throne?